How old is every character in Gumball? Well, today we're gonna find it out, as some characters literally have multiple ages, along with some characters looking way older than they are, starting all the way down with the youngest characters. First, we have Anton, which might confuse you because he's in Gumball's class. So how could he be 0? Well, that's because he's always being reborn. Clearly, this may sound confusing, so let me explain. Basically, Anton is a piece of toast, and in the show, it's a running gag that something always ends up happening to Anton, which leads him to die due to how vulnerable he is to dying. However, he's always somehow reborn, and we see this in huge effect in the episode The Recipe, where Gumball clones Anton hundreds of times, which proves how easy it is for Anton to be reborn.
No, dude, he came back to life, and I'm gonna find out how. Quick, come with us, Anton, we'll protect you!
This means that he technically doesn't age in years due to how much he's constantly dying and getting reborn, meaning that he's 0 years old, being the youngest character in Gumball in quite the odd way. However, the youngest character who's actually lived for years that we've seen play a role in Gumball is Penny's younger sister, Polly Fitzgerald. Now, in the show, Polly is shown to be a toddler, judging by the way she acts, and her limited verbal abilities, which we see a lot in one of her only major roles in the show, which was in The Mess.
Oh, we're fine. Where's the little peanut?
I made you a picture.
Aw, thank you. What is it?
It's Bigfoot.
So it is.
Now, taking all of this into consideration, we can most likely assume that she's 2 years old, as she's clearly able to walk and talk. However, she is very small and obviously doesn't speak much, so 2 years old is the perfect age to meet in the middle for Polly, hence why the official Gumball wiki also states that she's 2 years old. Now, while Polly's age isn't exactly confirmed, but very likely, Anais's age is the first confirmed age we're gonna see in this video, and if you don't already know, Anais is the ridiculously smart little sister of Gumball and Darwin, and she's clearly smaller than Gumball and Darwin and has much more of a younger voice to her, which already gives off hints that she's very young. However, this age is strictly confirmed, as the creators of Gumball themselves have actually confirmed it, as in the default description of every YouTube video they post on the official channel, they specify that Anais is 4 years old. Billy's age, on the other hand, isn't, but it's pretty easy to guess. Billy is the son of Felicity Parham, who is essentially the Karen in the Gumball universe. And while we mostly see him as a background character in a lot of episodes, we see him play a few major roles, such as his first real role, which was in The Egg. In this episode, we would see Billy meet the Watersons and actually spark an interest in Anais, as Nicole would set up a playdate with both of them.
Mother, these people scare me so. Pray tell, which is to be my playdate?
Billy, please meet my daughter Anais.
Playdate?
Yes, playdate.
Now, in the playdate, Billy and Anais would actually get along really well, and we would start seeing that Billy is essentially a boy version of Anais, as he's clearly a little boy who's also very smart, and their super close relationship is what led everyone to assume that he's most likely 4 years old, as out of any other young age, 4 years old simply makes the most sense, hence why this just became an unofficial but official age for Billy on the wiki. Now, on to the next character, who's actually 6 years old. However, this character is one that all of you may have totally forgotten about, and that character is Chris Morris, the Elmore Junior High school hamster, and we would see him first appear in the episode The Burden, where it's revealed that he's been trapped in his cage for 6 years, ever since he was born.
Oh, come on, this hamster's so old it should be classified as a mineral. I don't want to be the kid responsible for him when he turns into dust.
Well, I'm afraid it wasn't a request. It's an order. He's been in this cage since he was born, 6 long years ago. So please take extremely good care of him.
Clearly, these 6 years have not been nice to Bro, but thankfully, he finally got set free at the end of the episode. But unfortunately, we have to skip a few years all the way over to 10 years old, as at the 10 spot, we have one of our fan favorites, my boy Darwin. Now, Darwin is 10 years old, as it has been confirmed in multiple episodes, but I have even better proof, as back in May of 2013, we would see Ben Boclet, the creator of the show, reply to a fan on Twitter Twitter confirming that Darwin is 10. Now, while a lot of you probably don't mind this age, some of you actually question how Darwin is in Elmore Junior High at 10 years old, due to the fact that he isn't some genius like Anais, and acts like a normal 10-year-old with common sense. All of this has led people to theorize that Darwin might be in the same grade as Gumball due to how close they are, forcing Nicole to get them in the same class. Why is Darwin in the same grade as Gumball if he's 2 years younger than him? Are there any theories? My theory is that since Gumball and Darwin are so close to each other, Nicole and Richard were forced to put Gumball and Darwin in the same grade together. But honestly, who knows, as stuff like this basically never gets confirmed in the show. However, next up, coming in at 12 years old, is none other than Darwin's big brother, Gumball. Now, just like Darwin, Gumball has said multiple times throughout the show that he's 12 years old, along with Ben also confirming it. But one example we would see Gumball confirm this in is in the kids.
I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, dude, I've been 12 for like forever now.
I think we can safely say that we'll be young forever.
Now, Gumball's was pretty self-explanatory, but we aren't done with the age 12 yet, as another character who's also 12 years old is Gumball's girlfriend, Penny. Now, obviously, it only makes sense for Penny to be the same age as Gumball, which is why we see the writers confirm this in The Bros, where Penny tells Gumball that they're only 12, so they can't get married.
Marry me.
Oh, Gumball, I can't.
Why?
We're 12 years old.
Age doesn't matter when it comes to love.
Legally, it kinda does.
But now that we've also talked about Penny, let's mention how a lot of Gumball's classmates are also 12 due to them being in the same grade. Some of those characters are Banana Joe, Tobias, Terry, Alan, and Carrie? Yeah, Carrie's is a bit confusing, and I know this video is only ages 1 to 100, but I had to mention this. Now, as we all know, Carrie is technically 12, as she's in the same class as Gumball, but she might actually be over 327 years old, as she's a full-on ghost, which we would see her reveal in the drama.
Wait, how old are you exactly?
I'm 327 years old.
Oh no, the age difference is gonna tear them apart like a dysfunctional family on a camping trip.
Yeah, this is probably the weirdest stage in this video. However, things are about to start getting more difficult, as now we basically have all of the easy ages out of the way, and from here, the ages are gonna start getting a bit harder to find, and we're gonna see way more age gaps. But coming in at 13, we have Jamie. Now, while this age isn't 100% confirmed for Jamie, we get confirmation in page 42 of the Amazing World of Gumball Bible that Jamie was held back 1 year by Miss Simeon, which would most likely mean that she's around 13 years old. But we aren't done with the people who often bully others in Elmore Junior High, as we see Tina Rex come in at the 14 years old spot. Now, as we all know, Tina's in the same class as Gumball and Darwin, being 14. But just like Jamie, this means that Tina most likely got held back a year. And we get even more confirmation that she's 14 in a YouTube video from all the way back in 2012 titled Tina's Date. And in the video, we see an infographic confirming that she's 14 years old. So yeah, we clearly had to dig pretty deep to find this one. However, thankfully we keep the flow going in order again, as we have Rachel Wilson at the 15 years old spot. Now Rachel is the older sister of Tobias, and we would see her have one major role in the show, and that was all the way back in season 1 in The Party. Now in this episode, we would see Rachel act like your typical older sibling, and act superior over all of Tobias's friends, calling them his dweeb loser baby friends, hence why the wiki assumes that she's 15 years old. And to extend on this even more, believe it or not, we would actually see Rachel's canonical age, which is one of the only characters in the show who would do this. And we know this because we would get the confirmation that she left for college in Darwin's yearbook.
Yeah, I've been meaning to ask. What happened to your sister Rachel?
Oh, she's gone.
Gone? Like, gone the way of the dinosaur?
No, gone to college, obviously. Anyway, cool party, right?
Now, considering that she was 15 back during 2011 during season 1, she was most likely around 23 in 2019, when Darwin's yearbook released, which does make sense, as a lot of people in this age group are usually in college, but obviously we're basing it off her appearances in the show, so she's basically 15. But things are really starting to get wild now, as we don't actually see any characters ages 16 through through 26 in Gumball, which means we're jumping all the way to age 27, where we see Rocky hanging out in. Now, Rocky has been said to be different ages. However, the only confirmed age that we've seen him be is 27 years old, which we would see Gumball mention in the mystery.
Why me?
Well, yesterday you were wandering around when suddenly, at the age of 27, you realized your youth was behind you.
Oh.
Then all your hair fell out.
Now, this age for Rocky was honestly expected. However, let's just say that at age 28, we see someone that none of you expected to be 28. And trust me, it's a rough 28. And this character is none other than Miss Yoda Thumb, which is crazy because if anything, she looks like she's in her mid-70s. However, in the singing, we get the confirmation that she is 28 years old, despite how old she looks.
My face looks a state, though I've only just turned 28. Still I'm singing.
Clearly, this age is the most shocking one in this video by far. And if Miss Yoda Thumb wasn't joking, the years were definitely not nice to her. However, after this, we take a small leap over to the mid-30s for ages 34 through 35. As for ages 34 through 35, we see Johnny Toucan be in this category. Now, a lot of you probably don't even know who this character is, and this is most likely due to the fact that he only appeared one time in Gumball history, and that was in the season 7 episode, The Portrait. And in this episode, we find out that Johnny is Mary's new, younger yoga instructor boyfriend after divorcing Daniel. And it's also revealed that Johnny was a freshman in high school when Nicole was a senior, which reveals that he's most likely around 34 to 35 years old due to the fact that Nicole is 38. So based on the age gap of the grade levels, it only makes sense.
This isn't happening.
You remember Johnny Toucan, right, honey?
Hey, Nicole, haven't seen you since senior year.
Yeah, when you were a freshman.
Well, it takes two can to tango.
So yeah, this character is clearly more on the forgotten side in Gumball. However, we of course still had to include him in here. But speaking of Nicole, we see both her and Richard coming in at 38 years old. Now obviously, it only makes sense if Richard and Nicole were both 38, as they both met when they were kids. As seen in the choices, they seem to be around the same age, which we would actually see the creator of Gumball, Ben Boclet, yet again confirm on Twitter by replying to a fan that Richard and Nicole are both 38 years old in his mind, and even mentions how he feels like Richard and Nicole's marriage feels like a shotgun sort of marriage. Clearly, both Nicole and Richard are sitting in the middle area between young and old, but the same can't be said for Mr. Small on the other hand, and bro is approaching the old ages due to the fact that he is 40 years old. Now, we know that Mr. Small is 40 due to a handy dandy flashback we would see from Nicole in the G, where we would see that Mr. Small used to make fun of Richard's cottontail cavalier costume back in middle school.
Costume geek!
Leave him alone! At least he's brave enough to be himself.
Now seeing that, Richard would crash into another classroom that young Patrick, young Sal Left Thumb, and young Mr. Small were in, and we can assume that they're probably a grade or so above Richard, making Mr. Small around 40 years old, which would become sort of official on the wiki. And this actually leads us perfectly into age 42, which we would see Patrick Fitzgerald be in, aka one of Mr. Small's childhood friends. Now, there have never actually been any leads on Patrick's age, and the reason why he's 42 is because the wiki claims that he's 42, and we can most likely assume that they claim this due to what I was just talking about, which was how Patrick, Mr. Small, and Sal Left Thumb were all in middle school at the same time, and thanks to this flashback, we can make the assumption that Patrick is 42. But again, these two ages we've gone over are essentially just speculation, as we only have one singular flashback helping us out with this. But unfortunately, the evidence and overall leads don't become any better, as after 42 years old, we skip all the way over to age 50, where we got Principal Brown. Now, for Principal Brown, things get really bad, as this age, along with the next few, are going to be pure speculation, as the evidence we have is very little, such as the middle school flashback from when Principal Brown was a kid in the butts, where we see the school superintendent, Quattro Pepperoni, and a few more adults in the show appearing as kids bullying Principal Brown.
What's up with that? Why'd your crack so short, bro? Does it whistle when you chew? Guys, look at this. It looks like an egg with a cleft chin.
And clearly, this doesn't give any real leads on Principal Brown's age, and the wiki age is likely just speculation. Most likely, judging by how Principal Brown acts, along with his love interests. I mean, he's into a woman that is millions of years old, and Principal Brown's overall maturity just gives off the 50-year-old type of vibes. But hopefully, we get a real confirmation of his age once season 9 comes out in the future, so we don't have to speculate so much. But this isn't the only 50-year-old that we see in the show, as Mr. Robinson is also 50 years old, which we see Anais reveal in the Poltergeist, stating that they trapped a 50-year-old man in the attic.
Unlimited beverages and a queen-size bed.
You do realize what keeping a 50-year-old man in these conditions is called? Love? Kidnapping.
But we aren't done with the Robinsons yet, as we skip all the way over to age 58, where we see one of the most evil characters in the show, Mrs. Robinson. Now, obviously, Mrs. Robinson literally speaks her own little language in every episode, as all she says is which clearly shows that she most definitely has never revealed her age before, at least in common English. However, we can speculate that she's 58 due to her physical appearances and childhood flashbacks yet again. Now, one of the reasons why people speculate that she's 58 is due to the fact that over time, her hair has looked way more gray in later seasons, which definitely hints at her being on the older side, along with some baby pictures that we would see of her in The Wicked, as the baby picture of her from when she was born is literally in black and white.
Wait a minute, what about the baby pictures? They gotta be cute. Aww.
Now, judging the fact that most characters in Gumball don't truly age up in years throughout the show, we can assume that she was already 58 in 2011 when the show was released, meaning that she was born in 1953. And as we all know, black and white pictures were really common in this year, which makes sense as to why her baby pictures would be in black and white. But overall, this is just a bunch of speculation, and thankfully that ends at age 63, where we see Granny JoJo at. Now, Granny JoJo is obviously Richard's mom, along with Gumball, Darwin, and Anais's grandmother. And we see her confirm that she's 63 years old in The Man, where she confirms that she's 63 after they literally put more than 63 candles on her cake.
Happy birthday! Come on, Granny JoJo, blow out your candles.
Yeah, I prefer my face medium rare, not char-grilled.
Why are there so many candles? I'm only 63.
Sorry, we didn't know exactly how old you were, so we based it on looks.
Clearly, she's a pretty normal age for a grandma, but right after Granny JoJo, we once again skip over a few years to age 72, where we see Granny JoJo's husband, Louis Watterson. Now, we would see Louis confirm his age in the signature, where we would see some really weird sequences, from seeing the family literally adopt each other to seeing Richard's biological father. But in the middle of the madness, we would see Louis confirm that he's 72 years old, after Richard literally tries sending him to bed.
How dare you! You should be ashamed!
Tut, tut, tut. I think it's time to go to bed, son.
Are you kidding me? I'm a 72-year-old man!
Yeah, Louis is pretty old. However, now we're finally at the point where we've met the oldest character in Gumball, and that is actually Marvin Fickelheimer, who is in his 80s. Now, the reason we don't know the precise age is due to the fact that in the watch, we see Hank, another old guy, call Marvin an octogenarian, which is a term for people between the ages of 80 and 89.
What are you doing ramming into an octogenarian in a battery-powered wheelchair?
Yeah, fair point.
Well, those were all of the Gumball characters' ages from 1 to 100. If I missed any characters' ages or got anything wrong, make sure to leave it in the comments below, as this one was actually surprisingly tricky to research. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe and click the video on screen. I'm sure you'll love it. And also, you know what? Like the video too.